Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the show. The Atheist Experience is live February 15th, 2004. I'm your host, Martin Wagner. Ashley Perrin, my co-host, as always. And pretty day today for a change.
Yes.
For the last few.
Yes.
Snow and sleet and ice.
Yes.
So it's a good day to be here. We appreciate you joining us. This show is sponsored, as always, by Atheist Community of Austin, a nonprofit educational organization promoting positive atheism and the separation of church and state. The ACA is still working out where we're going to have our weekly meetings. Hot Jumbo Bagels, as you know, sort of closed all at once, and so we're trying to settle on where we're going to meet. So at this point, it's sort of on a week-by-week basis we find out where the weekly meetings are going to be. And apparently next Sunday, it's going to be at a place called Posse East. And you know where that is, Ashley?
It's San Jacinto, and I keep wanting to say Duval, but... Oh, it is. Aha. Okay. Duval in San Jacinto.
All right, then. What he said. So that's next Sunday at about 10:30, and you know, until we work out a regular place, this is just going to be announced on a week-by-week basis. So. So that happens, just the regular weekly meetings, except for, of course, the third Sunday of every month when we have our lecture series at the Austin History Center at 9th and Guadalupe. Now, today being the third Sunday of February, we had our lecture today. Speaker was Don, which I regret missing because I really wanted to see it. Don Baker spoke on the subject of morality.
Yes, morality and Christianity.
Yeah, I'm on that for a sec.
Ended up being a good lecture. Started off basically just what is morality, where does it come from, how can there be a secular morality and such, and then went into religion's response to how do they define morality, how do they come up with morality, and what are the shortcomings of it. So it was a pretty good lecture. He's actually going to be on the show next week.
Oh, okay.
Most likely talking about that.
All right.
So we're going to have a little recap on that next week.
Good, good, okay. Yeah, there's been there's been a slugging match going on the Ask an Atheist mailing list recently on the subject of morality. We have several internet mailing lists that people can subscribe to, and we have one called Ask an Atheist, which theists are allowed to join up and throw questions at us. And we had this one theist really getting into it with a couple of our members, Jeff D. and I think Stephen Rogers They were debating with, of course, he was taking this notion that morality is absolute and it must have supernatural sources. And,
yes.
And Jeff and Stephen were really doing a good job of sort of drawing him out and pinning him down on various things he didn't want to be pinned down on. So it's an interesting thread to follow.
Yeah.
But it certainly does seem to be a big issue with them. So, so that was today's lecture, and next month our lecturer is going to be Alan Campbell, who was on the show a couple of weeks ago. And we don't know his topic yet, but as soon as we do, we'll tell you. Other regular events, gatherings that ACA has, of course, are Godless Gamers, which is every Monday night at about 7 o'clock p.m. at the home of Russell and Virginia Glasser, and ACA Happy Hour, which takes place every Thursday evening in Antonio's Tex-Mex near the intersection of Highway 183 and I-35. The Nonprofits is our bi-weekly internet radio show hosted by Jeff D. and Russell Glasser and whoever else is there at Russell's house. Just that day, pitches in. It's 90 minutes of news analysis and current events and yelling back and forth, and it's a great deal of fun to listen to. And there is an interactive JavaScript chat room feature if you listen to the live MP3 stream at atheistnetwork.com, which is where the show plays every other Saturday at 2 o'clock p.m. The most recent episode was yesterday. I don't know if Russell has put the file up on our website yet for yesterday's show, but you can listen to about the last half dozen or so shows at the ACA website at atheist-community.org on the radio show page. And so the next episode, I guess, will be 2 Saturdays from now, the 28th.
Yep, 28th.
Right? Yeah. And this is a leap year. There are 29 days in February this month. So, all right. Okay, and last but not least, this University Atheists and Agnostics we've had a bit of trouble communicating with them. Evidently, they have this website URL that we didn't know about, uanda.com, and that's where apparently they're putting up new meeting information and what have you. This is a registered UT student organization, so if you're a UT student or faculty member and you're looking for a club for atheists and unbelievers, well, they're the folks to get in touch with. So visit that URL if you're so inclined and find out more about university atheists and agnostics. Okay, so that does it for the announcements. We welcome you to the show. We're here every week at 4:30 p.m. If this is the first time that you've ever watched us, Atheist Experience, we've been on the air about 6 years now. We are a live call-in show. We take calls from viewers, theists, atheists alike. Get some often very interesting discussions going on. But if you're this is the very first time you've ever seen the show, if you're just channel surfing and you've bumped into us, visit our website at atheist-community.org. That's where you can find out more information about the group. And we also have a fact page on the website, frequently asked questions. That's where we have assembled the most common questions. Right there is the website on your screen. We've assembled the most common questions that atheists tend to get from believers in general, and certainly the ones that we have gotten most commonly on this program over the years, and we've assembled them into a fact page. So if you're a first-time viewer to the show and you're puzzled and curious about atheism, why not visit that page first? Because chances are we've already answered your question. But if not, later on in the program we'll start taking live calls like we do every Sunday, and it'll be a lot of fun. Also note that there are reruns of this show that play Tuesdays on this channel at 4:30 p.m. And we also have a viewer feedback address. TV@atheist-community.org is your viewer feedback address to write us letters, ask us questions. If you don't manage to get on the air, it usually transpires at the end of a show that there's about 1 or 2 people still hanging on the line. And so if you try to call us up and you don't get through, that email address right there at the bottom of your screen is where you can write us and ask us questions. And we answer everything we get, and the really good ones, we'll try to bring them on the air and read them out on the air. All right? So, without further ado, over to Ashley for the news.
Okay.
Today. It's actually kind of been a big, busy news week.
Oh, well, yes, some significant stories.
Yeah.
Mostly on the good side, thankfully. But we're going to get to those a little bit later.
Bad news first.
Yes.
We're eternal optimists on this show.
Get the hard stuff out first. Columbus, Ohio. This is a rather common story. We've had this several times before. The State Board of Education gave preliminary approval Tuesday to a 10th grade biology lesson that states that scientists say could put intelligent design in Ohio classrooms. Setting aside an impassioned plea from the National Academy of Sciences, the board voted 13-4 to declare its attempt to adopt the critical analysis of evolution. Academy warned that doing so would give a green light to teaching intelligent design. It's a sad day for science in Ohio, said Patricia Pricehouse, who teaches biological evolution at a university. This opens up the reputation of Ohio scientists to ridicule nationally and internationally. Board member James Turner of Cincinnati, who supported the lesson plan, said he believes some members of the scientific community were overreacting. I think this is a case of passion lacking perspective. I reject the notion that this lesson somehow advances the notion of intelligent design or creationism.
Well, that was the line that they had at the textbook hearings.
Yes.
Here last fall.
As a simple snapshot of history, I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Simply saying that, look, evolution explains a lot, but there's a couple things that we still don't know, or here's something that doesn't explain all that well. That's perfectly fine. However, this is all posted on the internet called the wedge strategy. What they plan on doing is start by saying that there are little problems, and hey, look, we have an answer to these. It's just some unknown force, just some kind of intelligence. It's not God. It's not Christianity. Don't worry about that. It's nothing like that.
Yeah, we're not trying to promote our religion or anything.
Exactly. We're not pushing any kind of God here. There's got to be some intelligence behind it. And then a few years after, you can start teaching that. The intelligence say, well, now the intelligence, Christianity.
That's right. That's what they want to do is whittle away at the
intelligent of them.
Whittle away bit by bit until they just get that mistrust of accepted
Start putting
science.
more and more and more in there. So now, if this were an honest scientific analysis of evolution and its problems and where there are things that we still don't know, which there are areas like that in every science under the sun so far, then there's no big problem with that. But again, they're going to be using this as a wedge to try and get more and more and more stuff in and more science out.
Yeah, right. I mean, the only challenges to valid science education in the public schools in regards to biology and what have you are motivated by religious ideologues.
Exactly.
All right. There's no one out there in the National Academy of Sciences or anybody out there saying, oh, okay, we have a legitimate, scientifically valid gripe against teaching this.
Exactly.
And so because of that, we think that this should be taught in a different way.
It's solely the domain of people who don't like the implications of evolution that are saying that it's now got all these problems to it. It's not scientists who are saying it's got a problem. It's people who have an ick factor.
Yeah. No, it's religious fundamentalists. This is purely religiously motivated.
Yeah.
And in the Texas textbook hearings, they were more or less soundly knocked out of the running. Georgia has recently strengthened its science curriculum as a result of their little goofy flap a couple weeks ago.
Yes, that's right.
But the ID crowd, the fundamentalists, just won't quit, right? Because to them this is a threat to their religious beliefs. Yeah. And they'll just, it's like playing whack-a-mole, you knock one down and they pop up over here. So it's really difficult to
whack an idea.
Yeah. So
yeah, that's the current. So unfortunately, again, voted 13-4.
But the teachers who are being interviewed, the teachers know what's what.
Yeah.
Are they facing firing if they don't teach this stupid new curriculum?
I didn't see anything about that.
Yeah, I mean, if I were a biology teacher, and if I were that woman who had just been interviewed saying this is stupid, this is crazy, I'd keep teaching my class the way I always had. Yeah. And if they wanted to introduce some sort of thing into the curriculum saying, but it could have been the invisible magic pink space pixie. Yeah. I don't have, if it's wrong, I don't have to teach it. I'm the one with the degree in the field, not these school board people.
Exactly. Yeah.
These school board people just voted in. They could have been auto mechanics or something. They don't know.
So at this meeting, apparently tempers were very, very high.
Well, of course they are.
There was lots and lots of debate. Very heated, some of it. Yeah. I think they were saying that they had the debate about the lesson plan rose to such a fevered pitch this week that the board's president took the extraordinary step of admonishing her colleagues against attacking one another or members of the public.
It's just, right. So if this were just a scientific discussion, you wouldn't have that kind of temper flaring.
Exactly.
What happened here at the school board hearings, the textbook hearings back in September, there were a couple of really interesting incidents, and one of which was several people who spoke out in favor of teaching accurate science were Christians.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
And there was one very eloquent young woman who had the unenviable task of following Steven Weinberg in the order of speakers. But she was this student from Rice. She was a graduate student at Rice.
Okay.
And announced herself as this extremely devout Christian, and then went on to say that this kind of thing doesn't belong in science class, that science is one thing and her religious faith is another thing, and that evolution doesn't present any problems to her. She was immediately pounced on by Terry Leo, who is the fundamentalist Christian person on the school board, on the State Board of Education. I got to make those distinctions clear. The SBOE here, who had arranged this whole sort of thing in such a way to where the creationists got all the media attention. Arranged to have people like Dembski and Jonathan Wells flown in and what have you. And so she was really trying to, unsuccessfully it turned out, stack the deck, as it were, in favor of intelligent design. But Terry Leo pounced on this woman. It's like, well, how can you be, basically implying, I'm sorry. The speaker implies, the listener infers. Implying that she couldn't hold those views and be a proper Christian. She couldn't accept evolution and be... Didn't state it outright.
So you have the person who's from the State Board of Education saying you're not a true Christian.
No, she didn't say that, right? She didn't say it outright, but the implication was extremely clear. That's...
you're just not a good Christian.
I don't see how you can... This seems contrary to me. How can you agree with this? And hold your religious views the way you do. And she and the girl, you know, explained herself, I thought, you know, fairly eloquently.
Yeah.
For having what I think is not a tenable position. But she at least demonstrated that,
Yeah.
you know, not all Christians are these anti-science fundamentalists.
Exactly.
Nuts.
Wackos.
So, but there was another incident where a Baptist minister spoke.
Yes.
And he spoke in favor of not having creationism, intelligent design, and science curriculum. He said, this isn't science, what have you. And this minister had, the Discovery Institute had attempted apparently to contact him in advance of the hearings.
Yeah.
And
have him speak for
I
their
guess
side.
he didn't return their calls or something. And so after he gave his thing out in the lobby of the building, 3 or 4 Discovery Institute guys, you know, harangued him.
Yeah.
You know, verbally, called him nasty names.
Yeah.
And this was witnessed by Jeff Jones, our co-chair, and a few other, and Samantha Smoot with the Texas Freedom Network, and a few other people. I mean, it was pretty public.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was pretty wild. It was pretty out of hand.
Yeah. Yeah.
But all of that emotionalism comes from their side, right?
Exactly.
Because they're the ones who have this fragile fundamentalist dogma to protect.
Exactly.
So, you know, scientists just say,
typically don't get that emotional about their arguments.
well, they can be, right?
They can be, yes.
Scientists can get very passionate about things. But, you know, scientists can just say, look, where are the peer-reviewed papers?
Yeah. Yeah.
There aren't it, so.
Show us the evidence. We'll go along with you.
Right.
So
it remains to be seen if, but it does show this increasing, this can be tied in very well to our next article, I bet you.
To our next one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm missing the linkage, but okay.
Well, I'll tell you what it is if you were to just read the damn, come on.
Okay, fine. Seoul, South Korea.
Yeah.
South Korean researchers reported Thursday that they have created human embryos through cloning and extracted embryonic stem cells. The findings by a team of researchers led by Dr. Hwang Wo-suk of Seoul National University were presented to South Korean scientists and will be published in the U.S. Journal of Science. The paper describes the detailed process of how to create human embryos by cloning, saying the scientists use eggs donated by Korean women. The technique, scientists say, was not designed to make babies, but to further understand the process known as therapeutic cloning, possible treatment for a possible treatment for a multitude of diseases. Advances in stem cell technology have been hailed as holding potential cures for many crippling illnesses such as diabetes, spinal cord injuries, and Parkinson's. What else here? Yeah, stem cells. Basically what happened, they figured out how to clone a human embryo. They did that. When it starts dividing, they take some of the stem cells out of that, and then they can use the stem cells for whatever research. You can find stem cells in adults, but they're much rarer, they're much harder to get to, and typically they're not as good for research as ones that come from an embryo. So that's kind of the breakthrough here. Now they are saying that any kind of therapeutic cloning or research or anything like that, or therapies, are years away. This is something where they've managed to do this, but that's basically the end of it. It is not a practical.
Well, it's the first step. Right?
Exactly. This, what they have right here, is not a practical thing.
Not yet, but
Exactly.
there have been stem cells have grown like new heart tissue in mice.
Yeah.
So we know that it can be done. Now
Can
we
be
just
done.
have to
It just takes a little work.
But that's
to figure it out.
That's what science does, right?
Exactly.
I mean, it's research. Took a lot of work to get the polio vaccine.
Exactly.
Took a lot of work to get the penicillin. Stuff like that.
Exactly.
Now, how this ties into the previous is in that the more and more science education is undermined in America by fundamentalists, we're going to find ourselves in a situation in this country where in about 20 years we are this scientific and intellectual third world country.
Yes.
We will be as dependent on foreign countries for our medicines and things like that as we are right now on our oil.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
We are going to be dependent because our scientists they're not going to be taught this stuff.
Yeah.
They're not going to be presented with the educational opportunities unless they study overseas. And they're not going to be presented with the research opportunities.
Yeah.
Whoever comes up with a cure for AIDS and a cure for cancer and a cure for Parkinson's and a cure for Alzheimer's and a cure for any other sort of degenerative crazy disease that you might come up with, anybody who ever comes up with a legitimate life extension technology, tell you, bet you even money right now, that's not going to be an American.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just isn't. You know, it's if this trend towards
if the current
undermining
trend
science,
continues,
undermining science in this country, based on religious fundamentalism, continues. It's very worrying. You know, we're going to be, and of course, Korea. I mean, if Korea is the place we have to go to, you know, to get the medicine that's going to cure mom of her MS or her Parkinson's or what have you, they can just charge whatever they want. Right? It's like, okay. Well, let's see. That'll be $10,000 for the first treatment. You know, and then $20,000 for the second treatment. And they can just, you know, we can just be held economic hostage. Like we have been for so many years, I think, with our oil. And then what are we going to do? Are we going to invade South Korea like we did Iraq? You know, invaded Iraq to get their oil. We're going to invade South Korea to take over their. Oh no, they have a WMD program. Right, that's it. March in there, and we'll just happen to take these pharmacies to get what we need. It's crazy. It's crazy.
So yeah, I mean, this is technology that, yes, there are definitely things that we don't know about. There are definitely limitations to it right now. We should not be, you know, jumping forward as fast as we possibly can to say, you know, let's create new babies by cloning. There are big problems.
I don't think anyone. I don't think anyone's promoting that really.
But yeah, one,
except for aliens.
One, people aren't promoting that. You know, we do this for reproductive reasons. And two, like say that's years ahead. And this is knowledge that, again, you have to get out there. We can do a lot of stuff with this kind of technology, and it's something that we should look into and when we should work on with caution, of course.
Sure.
But we should be looking into it.
Yeah, you should always be mindful of ethical issues. But
of course, there's always a way that science can go wrong. And
how many embryos are discarded and thrown away at fertility clinics and you know, various places on a daily basis. So
couldn't they be used to help cure Parkinson's? So well, according to the current administration, no. So so anyway, now they do also say that even in Korea, this is obviously sparking huge debates over whether or not we should be banning this, you know, cloning technology out. Banning human cloning, period, everywhere for any kind of reason.
And that's the ick factor. At work, right?
And even in Korea, they're having a lot of incidents now where, you know, they're attacking the scientists and whatnot in certain ways to try and stop them. So yeah, unfortunately, there is a backlash, but again, there's no scientific reason for a backlash. So
people have seen too many science fiction movies.
Exactly, they're afraid that, you know, that we're going to try and, you know, resurrect Hitler or something like that.
Even if you did, right, he wouldn't be Hitler, right?
Exactly.
I mean, a person's personality
there's a lot of upbringing and everything that goes along with something.
Yeah, all you're doing, you know, you're making a genetic copy of an individual, but that doesn't mean that individual's going to be the same person.
Exactly. Promote the same things or whatever.
And again, why don't the anti-cloning people ever think, oh, well, you know, you can create an army of Gandhis? Or people, it's always, oh no,
your Hitlers, we'll create our Gandhis.
Oh no, they could clone Hitler. They could make this army of Hitlers, or they could make all the, you know, there could be 1 million Osama bin Ladens running around the world, all cloned. Yeah, why is it never
Einstein?
Why is it never Florence Nightingale? You know, why is it? Why is it never? You know, it's always. You know, it's the only objections you ever hear to these technologies are from the, you know, the Luddites, the people who are afraid of these advancements, and they're afraid of it for religious reasons. You know, I think in surveys, people have stated, you know, their main objections to cloning are usually rooted in religious beliefs. Or any sort of life biotechnology and life extension, what have you. So, again, and this is why I think America in the 21st century is going to fall behind the rest of the world in a lot of advancements. I don't think we're going to lead the world the way we did in like the second half of the 20th century for very long. If things keep going the way they're going.
So we can hopefully change that tide, but we'll see.
Well,
and the final story. This is in Denton, Florida. Eckerd Corporation has fired 3 pharmacists who declined to fill an emergency contraception prescription for a woman who had been raped. Jean Eyre, 33 of Denton, said he and 2 co-workers were fired on January 29th, 6 days after refusing to fill the prescription. Eyre said he declined to fill the prescription for the so-called morning after pill because he believes it could have killed the embryo if the woman had already conceived. Though he had declined, now this is what gets me.
Yeah.
Though he had declined 5 or 6 times in the past to fill such prescriptions, this was the first time he had been handed one for a rape victim. So he's done this several times before.
Yeah.
This is just the first time for a rape victim. I went to the back room and prayed briefly about it.
There you go.
Who had worked for Eckerd for 5 years. I actually called my pastor, who has nothing to do with this.
Yeah. It's none of his freaking business.
At Denton Bible Church and asked him what he thought about it. Well, who cares what he thinks about it? Unless he's involved with this in some way,
yeah.
He has no say. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
The 2 other pharmacists who were there...
Just got to stick their nose in everybody's business.
Who were present at the time also declined to fill the prescription. The rape victim got a prescription at a nearby pharmacy.
Right.
But, yeah, Gallagher said, now, again, this is something that I kind of expected, Eckerd's employment manual says pharmacists are not allowed to opt out of filling a prescription for religious, moral, or ethical reasons. And he's claiming that he just didn't know about this policy, which is possible.
Yeah,
but
I'm glad they have such a policy.
Exactly. I mean,
and they responded appropriately. They canned his butt.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which is perfectly right thing to do.
Yeah.
Like I say, I mean, you don't have the right to impose your will on somebody else for something like this.
Yeah.
Not for something like rape, at least.
Yeah. Or just at all, right? At all.
I mean, for any reason.
This medication is legal.
Yes.
Okay?
Yeah.
If someone walks in and says, please fill this prescription, if you're the pharmacist, you do it.
Yeah.
It's your job.
Yeah. Yeah.
No?
But apparently, if you've got your invisible friend, then you can, decide
That's
not
it.
to.
They think that they can just, not.
Yeah.
Well, and they're jobless, and they should be, and it's a good thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I hope that they find it very, very hard to get a job filling prescriptions anywhere else.
Yeah, I mean, that's just completely inappropriate.
Yeah.
So
I've heard, I don't know that I remember the name, but there are conservative politicians right now mumbling about this morning after pill.
Yeah.
Saying that, oh, well, maybe this is a thing that shouldn't exist because this goes against our push towards like having abstinence education and what have you.
Yeah.
And I'm like, guys, it's not just all about 14-year-old girls, okay? Married women want to should have the morning after pill.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
They're just so, they have such tunnel vision.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. Boy, I mean,
And abstinence, is a great idea. I'm all for it.
Well,
but the failure rate of abstinence is fairly high. And if you rely on it and say that, you shouldn't have sex because...
the failure rate of abstinence is like when people stop being abstinent, right?
Yeah, I mean,
because if you stay abstinent, there's no failure rate.
Exactly. The failure rate is just about 100%.
Yeah.
So, in time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, having that as part of a sex education program, perfectly valid. All for it. It's definitely an option. But it's not completely effective. There should be ways that you can back things up.
Yeah. But again, this is about controlling behaviors, right? And now and they're spreading it above and beyond sex education, the schools, and what is or isn't appropriate to give to teenagers.
Yeah.
These are rules that can affect adults who should be autonomous. Married women use morning after pills. Married women use birth control pills. Grown adults use these things. Apparently, I'm having mic problems. Okay, so we're about to get a new one.
No, mine.
Oh, you are. Okay, sorry about that.
Sorry, people.
I got me having a microphone. Even if I had, you could hear me across the. So this isn't about valid science. This isn't about this is all about fundamentalists trying to control behaviors, which is what they've been trying to do for centuries. Yeah. Well, this is back to the age of Comstock, right? Back to 100 years ago. Yeah. You had Margaret Sanger. You had Anthony Comstock, who was the morality czar of America, trying to make all sex education materials illegal, making contraceptives illegal.
Yeah.
And which resulted in all sorts of horrible consequences.
Exactly.
With people using just the most dreadful solutions to avoid unwanted pregnancy.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is the new age of Comstock in the 21st century. It's inexplicable.
Yeah, abstinence-only programs are not all that effective, and these kind of technologies and these kind of medical help should be out there for people who want to use them. And I think partly it's people are just afraid that people may be using this as a form of birth control.
Well, yeah, well, that is what the morning after pill is.
Well, yes, it is, but I think what they're afraid of is that, women are going to be able to go out and have sex anytime they want, and hey, I could just get a morning after pill the next day, and I'll be fine.
Oh, yeah. Heaven forbid that grown adults should be going out there, doing things that they're entitled to do.
It's
like
not, it's,
having sex.
Yeah, I mean, on one hand, yes. But on the other hand, again, the morning after pill, from everything that I have heard, is not exactly, you just take it and all of a sudden you're not pregnant anymore.
No.
Or you avoid the pregnancy. It's not exactly a pleasant experience. Just like an abortion is not fun. And so you're probably not going to go out and have sex and get pregnant and say, well, I could just have an abortion. It's not quite that easy, simple, quick, and painless, essentially.
Okay.
And so, this is not going to be a typical form of easy birth control. You're not going to say, oh, I don't need to take the pill anymore. I could just have a morning.
Oh, well,
I don't
okay,
need condoms anymore.
I see what you're getting at. Right,
that type
right.
of thing.
Yeah, okay.
And that's, not going to be the case.
Well,
So, but, no.
Well, this is ultimately it comes down to people morally superior to you trying to dictate how you behave.
Exactly.
Right? And trying to make your choices for you.
Exactly. People out there saying you don't know good enough. You're not intelligent enough to make these decisions for yourself. We'll help you. We'll give you the correct option.
And if you're talking about 16-year-old kids, that sort of guidance maybe is appropriate, although I would say that it's the parents' responsibility.
Exactly.
And certainly not the government's, and certainly not some, pompous theocrat in Washington. But if you're talking about 26, 36, 46-year-old adults, you're, what goes on in my pants is none of your damn business.
Let them figure out for themselves how to do these things. Let's educate them and decide what they want to do, rather than just dictating and saying, you obviously don't know what you're doing, let me help you. So that's not going to last.
For your own good.
Exactly.
Okay. What else have we?
That's it for actual news.
Point that out.
But yes, I will get into this. Jeff D. was actually on the show a couple weeks back talking about the Newdow case. Who had brought the not Ten Commandments, the Under God and the Pledge and California schools and such to the Supreme Court. Jeff D. and our group submitted an amicus brief, or we wrote up some papers and gave it to the lawyer who was writing the amicus brief. That is now finished. We now have an amicus brief. Yay, us. So if the type on this is a bit small, probably not really worth it. But see, green paper.
It's green.
Lots of type.
It's very green. It's got words in it.
Lots of words.
Okay.
From my understanding, this has a fair bit in it actually from Jeff D. Who actually wrote a pretty significant chunk. But a fair bit of that is used in there. And this is the final version of what's going to be given to the Supreme Court justices to read over from our side.
And what's the day they're hearing? It's March something, right?
24th.
March 24th.
March 24th is the verbal arguments. Or
interesting.
Whatever.
Okay.
So that is that.
Wow.
We do have a PDF of this. It will hopefully be up on our site sometime soon.
Yeah, we'll try to get that up today for sure.
So
yeah, we'll try to get that up. But now, an amicus brief is, I think the phrase is it's friend of the court, I think, translated, or something like that.
Okay.
And it's where people who aren't necessarily involved in the case directly, but who support one side or another, may present to the lawyer arguing the case certain arguments, and then he presents that to the court. And the pro-theocrat position has also, the pro-under God people, they've come up with their own, apparently.
Yeah, I'm going to try and actually get out there and see if I can't find a copy of that one also.
Yeah, I'm sure
I'd be really interested to find out, read that one versus this one.
Michael Newdow will probably have a link to it on his site at restorethepledge.com. He had links to many of their arguments before. And in fact, Jeff D. used that as research for drafting his amicus brief that we sent in.
Yes.
Examining some of the Christians' arguments for keeping under God in the pledge.
Yeah.
So it should be interesting to see how this pans out.
Yeah.
If it's now, Scalia has recused himself.
Yay.
Fascinating. Although he
really didn't have much of a choice, though.
He's not recusing himself from going on fishing trips with Dick Cheney, but at least he recused himself from this. Yeah. So if it's 4-4,
it stands.
It stands, and could pan out that way. Interesting.
Yeah.
And if that happens, you're going to have a lot of histrionics from the Christian right.
Yeah.
They're not going to quite get it.
Yeah.
But okay, I have a couple things to bring up. Just while we're gonna in a few minutes we'll get the phone number up on the line and then we'll start taking calls and what have you. But a few things. The Gibson movie comes out next week, or is it week after? Like week after next?
25th.
Yeah, week after next. And it's nuts how much hype this is starting to get. Have you noticed? It's like you can't swing a dead cat on the web without hitting some article about, Mel Gibson defends his movie from. It's like every day. There's like this daily promotional thing. And what's fascinating is that churches everywhere are just pouncing on this movie.
Yeah.
With this, they have this attitude like, this is our big chance.
Yeah.
To get our message out, right? Like there haven't been churches in America for hundreds and hundreds of years, and like no one knows. No one's ever heard of this Jesus person.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's this interesting.
It goes back to kind of what is it? The little cartoons. The Chick Tracks.
The Chick Tracks.
The Chick Tracks. Those are always fun because, again, they always have this, this evil sinner person out there, and all of a sudden somebody comes up and says, ooh, did you know that there was somebody who lived a long time ago and they loved you very much and they died for your sin? My God, no, I've never heard anything like that. And it's always complete morons who are apparently insulated from the rest of the world for their entire lives.
Right.
So, never heard of Jesus.
And they're won over by the most banal emotional arguments, right?
Exactly.
And what I found fascinating about a lot of the pre-release discussion on this movie, at least on the part of Christians, right, is that they're all embracing this movie like it will be this incredible conversion tool.
Okay.
And that's fascinating to me, right? Because I'm sure, okay, to some degree, there are some people who can be converted by a movie, I bet.
Of course.
There's this Jesus movie that's been out now for about 20 years, which is, remember the video? A few years ago, some clown spent millions and millions of dollars to mail this video
everybody,
to.
I think I still have mine actually.
I got one. I taped something over it, but
Episodes of this show.
It just seemed to me to be well. First off, he spent millions of dollars, and I'm sitting there thinking to myself, think of what these millions of dollars would mean to something like, childhood leukemia research or something.
Exactly.
Right? But no, this guy
Give it to a school.
This guy thought that the best thing he could do for the people of the state of Texas would be to mail them some damn video, right?
Yeah.
And
from a 70s.
And like
70s movie.
And it was awful. I mean, did you try to watch it? Have you tried to watch
I actually haven't.
Just speaking from the point of view of somebody who works in the film business, it was just bad filmmaking, right? It's like it just starts, right? And it doesn't really establish a narrative. It doesn't establish character the way a movie does traditionally.
Okay.
Okay, it just kind of starts.
Okay.
Like this angel appears and who's just this guy in cheesy glowing, effects, and then it just kind of goes here, and it doesn't really. And Jesus in the movie never really becomes a character.
Okay.
He just kind of goes around and
goes through the motions.
Yeah, and he only ever says things that are directly quoted from the Gospels. And there's no scene in the film that plays out like an actual scene.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
With a beginning and a middle and an end and like a focused narrative that leads you places, right? And, but apparently the people who are out there promoting this movie say that it's been seen by something like 4 billion people and has led to all these millions and millions of conversions, which I've just found really bizarre. Now, I can certainly see why an unsophisticated person, say like you're living out in the bush somewhere, and you've never seen a movie before, and that's happened. Right? Missionaries have taken this film out to to tribes who've never seen a movie ever and don't know what it is, and they present this magical image.
Yeah.
So it's not surprising that those people might be converted.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is I'm hearing. Christians being interviewed in the news about this Mel Gibson movie, and they're saying, my goal is to get, X many atheists to come to the movie with me.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself, I want to see this movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm interested in seeing this movie.
Yeah.
Okay, seeing this movie is interesting. But it's a movie, right?
Yeah.
And I don't think they get that. Okay, somebody who's like a sophisticated atheist, used to debating, understands. Why has actually given their atheism a lot of thought.
Exactly.
Someone who's a rationalist and a secularist no matter how good a movie is, a movie's not going to be a thing that converts me.
Exactly.
What's going to convert me is evidence,
Yeah,
right?
actual evidence, actual arguments.
Yeah.
So.
And as this movie may be one of the most emotionally stirring movies ever made, but in the end, it's a movie, right?
Yeah.
I was emotionally stirred by Return of the King, right? But I didn't walk out of the theater thinking, well, maybe hobbits really are real. Wow.
Yeah.
Boy, if it wasn't for Frodo doing what he did, we might all be under the rule of the Dark Lord Sauron right now. Boy. It's, you don't.
Yeah. There's a thing called reality.
But at the same time, there are a lot of people who have a hard time distinguishing fantasy from reality, and they watch movies, they watch shows like The X-Files and take it seriously.
Yeah.
Which I think is pathetic. So it remains to be seen. I mean, it's going to be the hype is going to be really huge up until it opens, and then we'll see what the fallout is. But but that was just interesting to kind of bring up.
But speaking of what you were saying in there, actually, I'll just bring this up really quickly. You had actually mentioned this last week.
Oh, right.
This was not Tom Short. I think the guy's name was
Tom Short's the evangelist.
Tom Short's the evangelist. Is that his name?
Jacob Spinney. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Actually, he went to one of these campus revival, religious youth group type things with a friend.
And he's an 18-year-old high school student, right?
18-year-old high school student, yes. Who is an atheist. He went with a friend. Tom Short at this crusade or whatever it was gave him his book, which is 5 Crucial Questions About Christianity. And then Jacob proceeded to rip him a new one, essentially.
Well, let's put it in nicer phrases. It's a very measured and intelligent rebuttal to this man's book.
Exactly. It is a 19-page, as in, to the border, refutation of this book, and it is absolutely unbelievable.
Yeah.
The arguments in here are just excellent. The writing is well thought out.
Yeah.
It's in good order. Just everything in here is absolutely excellent.
I mean, when I was 18, I didn't have my arguments nearly in that kind of shape.
Yeah, I mean, it was an absolutely incredible thing to read over.
Yes. And this Tom Short guy has just run from this.
Exactly. Exactly. Because he went back, he got the book, read it, wrote this, brought it back to Tom Short and said, here you go, here's my reply. Tom Short said, okay, I'll get back to you on it. And the next day he came back and said, you really shouldn't be giving this to anyone.
Yeah.
Let's just keep this between you and me.
It's like, yeah, fat chance, bucko.
Exactly. So instead he gives it to...
Can't stand the heat, yeah.
Gives it to, what was his name again?
Well, James Randi is what I first discovered. Yeah.
Exactly. So, and now it's getting around at least 1 or 2 websites out there.
Yeah.
But like I say, it's absolutely incredible.
I think we still have the URL.
We might have the title for that. Otherwise, you might be able to Google it. A Thinking Person's Religion.
Well, if nothing else, you can go to randys.org and visit it. But I think we have the URL on the screen. It's the Jacob Spinney, or Jacob Andrews, I think. I'm not sure who Andrews is, but...
yeah, I think it's at jacobandrews.com.
Yeah.
So,
but I think we still have the title in the thing. So if...
but yeah, I mean, it's an absolutely...
If Joe finds it, he'll put it up.
Excellent read.
It's great.
Well worth the time if you
And in fact, I think there's a follow-up on Randy's site right now where someone else has written Randy, who read Jacob's bit. And said, I was a student at such and such university back in the 80s, and this Tom Short dude used to show up and would set up his little PA system, his little mic. There's that URL. We're going to leave that up in time for people to write down, because we really want people to read this. It's great. Yeah. And he said, you would try to lob questions at him, and he would just duck and dodge and weave and not answer you. And so it was pretty funny.
Yeah, yeah.
But remarkable.
Like I say, if you got some time, go ahead and check out this URL down here. It's absolutely incredible reading.
Yeah. So all is not lost in the quest for saving minds.
Apparently not.
So we're going to go ahead and get the phone number up online in about a minute. Go ahead and do that for phone calls. But while we're waiting on the calls to rack up, like I said, this live calling show. So feel free to give us a call and ask us questions. Last thing I wanted to chime on in terms of current events was this, the gay marriage issue is heating up.
Yes.
Big time. And this isn't really, this isn't anything that really pertains to atheism. But I think it does pertain to the religious climate in the country right now.
Okay.
Because, of course, the opposition to same-sex marriage is from religious fundamentalists. But, and then Massachusetts did its thing, which, you know, the Supreme Court in Massachusetts basically said, no, you got to let him marry. And that threw the religious right into a panic.
Into a tizzy.
But what no one was expecting was for what San Francisco did.
Okay.
Whereas the mayor of San Francisco basically just said, we're going to start issuing marriage licenses
Yeah.
to gay people. And I think like in the last couple of days, you know, so like several thousand gay couples have gotten married.
Wow.
And I'm looking at this, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, now I certainly support the right of any consenting adult in this country, you know, to be allowed to be married, and discrimination is just wrong,
Yeah.
right? But I'm a little troubled by what's going on in San Francisco.
Okay.
You know, this is going to be a position that is probably going to be controversial among people on our side who are watching right now, you know, who are, because atheists in general, we believe in equal rights, we're against discrimination, you know, we're all for, you know, freedom and liberty and all that kind of stuff. But I'm looking at what the mayor and the city manager in San Francisco chose to do, and I'm thinking to myself, you know, I really don't see that this is necessarily, at least in principle, much different than what Judge Roy Moore did.
Okay.
Well, because what did Judge Roy Moore do? Judge Roy Moore says, okay, I don't like the law right now.
Okay.
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 So, because the law doesn't let me do something that I think I should be allowed to do.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go above the law, I'm going to break it, and in so doing, I'm going to present the courts with a fait accompli, and they will have to now make a decision, and his assumption, of course, was that they would decide in his favor, and they didn't.
Yeah.
And it seems to me that, okay, the fact that I happen to agree in principle with what the mayor of San Francisco is doing, and that I think that
methods that they went about it were wrong.
Again, you just cannot, in the system that we have, I mean, if this great experiment called America is going to work, we just can't have, you know, public officials going around and just breaking the laws that they see fit to break.
Imposing their will on the people. Whether we agree with that will or not is beside the point.
And again, all those couples who've been getting married in San Francisco, I want them to be allowed to be married. I want them to have wonderful ceremonies and have great marriages and lives together. But, you know, there's a process by which we do things in our country, in the legislature, and I don't know if it's something having to do with the fact that we've got this culture of instant gratification in America, you know, that we're just used to this, but profound social change is not something that conforms to instant gratification ever, right? I mean, it took years for, you know, what Martin Luther King was trying to do, you know, with you know, trying to get equality for blacks and for African Americans. It took years for the suffragettes and for women 100 years ago, trying to get the vote, trying to get, you know, equal job rights and what have you. It was not a thing that just could be legislated by fiat. There had to be this sea change in social attitudes, and it's going to take this for what, you know, proponents of gay rights are trying to do. And I'm afraid that what's going to happen is that this is just going to be a setback for the gay community. This isn't going to help them, because, you know, what happened with Judge Roy Moore was that what he did galvanized his opponents. Okay, all the people who said, no, you can't, as a judge, use your position as a government official to thrust your religion down everyone's throat, and he got smacked down. And I think that if the mayor of San Francisco, if it was his intent to get the Bush administration and the Christian right to fast-track this proposed anti-gay marriage constitutional amendment that they're trying to push, which, by the way, would be the first time ever that any constitutional amendment has ever been passed that, like, introduces discrimination into the Constitution, which would be a stunning thing to happen. But if they wanted to make sure that this would be fast-tracked, they couldn't have done any better than what they did on Friday by just starting to issue these marriage licenses, which are not covered in California law. So, you know, I agree with what they want to do. This isn't the right way to go about it. And I know that, you know, okay, now, my position is that you can't just break laws you don't like if you think they're wrong laws. Our phones are, I knew they were going to lie, but they lit like crazy immediately. But I'm sure people are diving for their telephones right now, and they're going to go, Martin, okay, what about Tiananmen Square? Okay, what about the Third Reich? You know, what about the Taliban? What about all these oppressive governments who have evil laws and people stood up to them? And I've given a lot of thought to that, and I think, okay, I think that's a different kettle of fish entirely.
Yeah.
Okay, we're talking about, now that's an entirely different system of government. If you want to talk about some evil, totalitarian, oppressive regime that's out there, you know, that doesn't guarantee any of its citizens any rights, you know, you can't vote, you have a dictator in power, it's all fascistic. You know, no one has a congressman they can call up.
Yeah.
You know, if you're some poor Chinese peasant living out in the provinces and under a communist government, you don't have a congressman you can email with a grievance, right?
Yeah.
If you live under some sort of oppressive regime that makes you walk around wearing burqas and stuff like that, that's a different kettle of fish entirely.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, and I know that the Bush administration, a lot of people involved, you know, are sort of little Cub Scout fascists in training. They're these wannabe fascists, right? But it's still, you know, when I woke up this morning, you know, America still seemed to be America to me, right? I mean, this is an election year. We've got Kerry, you know, looking good. You've got editorial cartoonists are still allowed to, you know, draw stupid cartoons of, you know, Bush and newspapers, making him look like an idiot.
As much as people
they don't get hauled off to prison.
As much as people want to say that we are living in a theocracy, they don't really know.
The push is there.
What a real theocracy is.
I mean, the push towards it is certainly. I don't think it's going to realistically happen because, again, you know, it's going to come up and be challenged in courts. The fact that there are people in America like Tom DeLay and folks like that who might want America to be that kind of country, Judge Roy Moore, it's not there yet, and it's not, you know, and they can keep pushing and keep pushing and keep pushing, and we'll keep fighting. So I think that if we're going to make this big experiment called America work, we've all got to, you know, we set these rules up, and we got to start playing by our own rules. That's just fair. So I want this all to work out in favor of you know, gays and lesbians not being discriminated against. But I just don't think that you know, we can.
This is the way to do it.
It seems kind of anarchic to me, and I don't think that, you know, I don't want to see this slippery slope to anarchy. In our country. But that's end of polemic. But that's just my view. That has nothing to. That's not really that's not an atheist position. I'm sure some of our own members are going to call up and heatedly disagree with me, but that's fine. That's fine.
That's what we're here for.
But you know, it is definitely tied into the religious climate in this country, which is becoming stronger and stronger. And it's getting scary. I mean, you know, it's getting to a situation where you really, if you're a non-religious person in this country, or if you're more tolerant than the fundamentalists, it's really seeming like you got to watch your back more and more every time. But anyway, but you can't just go out and do vigilante stuff. But that's...
Civilians or government officials.
Okay. So we're going to start taking calls right now. 477-2288 is that number to call us live. And I'm going to start with, Richard on line 2, I guess. Hi, you're on the air. Thanks for holding.
Hey, how's it going?
We're good. What's up?
First and foremost, I haven't gotten a chance to call in a while. I wanted to tell Ashley congratulations on his foray into the other side a little while back. That was great. Okay, secondly, get right to the point here. The movie, The Passion. I got a call yesterday from my mother, who I've been working on for quite a while. I grew up in a Baptist household, went to a Baptist Christian school, and so on.
Yeah, I was Baptist.
Yeah, you see, you feel my pain. But I talked to her the other day, and she got an invitation from her church in the Southern Baptist Convention to come and see a screening of the movie. And they sent this little press pack with the tickets that they're sending. They rented out a theater, apparently. And they said that there were so many miracles happening on the set. People were being healed during the filming.
There were miracles of the star of the show getting hit by lightning.
But hey, but they survived.
Yes, but he survived. It's a miracle.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, so she's giving me all of this, and I've done some research into this, and I've seen what Mel Gibson's father and all believes and what their church believes, and I started throwing some of that at her, and she gave me the whole, I don't know.
Yeah, the hemming and the hawing.
Yeah.
Now, in Mel Gibson's defense, I'll say that you can't just, the sins of the father do not necessarily fall upon the son, and Mel Gibson is not. Mel is not a Holocaust denier.
This is true.
And so that's, if there are criticisms to be made of the film, I think, obviously they should be legitimate criticisms. I would hate to see people, I think that the ADL and some of the more militant people who are trying to criticize the movie have shot themselves in the foot in
right.
occasionally in tossing out what seem like cheap shots. Oh, well, your dad's a Holocaust denier, so that must mean your movie sucks. Well, it's got nothing to do with it.
Yeah. Right, and I'm sure they share some of the same beliefs, and that's all fine. To each his own, I guess.
Yeah.
I've been working on my mom for like 2 years now, and I watch you guys, if you'll pardon the pun, religiously. But
that's fine.
And I've used a lot of the arguments that you've brought up because they're very similar ones that she's brought up to me, and she doesn't know that I'm an atheist. I've kind of kept that under wraps. I've
not doing a very good job, apparently.
Yeah.
But it's just not using the A word.
Right. Well, she's telling me all about this movie, and she's trying to get me to come down, and she's trying to get me to come watch it, and she's telling me what a wonderful, life-changing experience this would be, and God will work in my life if I come down here and do this.
See, it's interesting, isn't it? It's like they think that just a movie will make people go,
right.
And it's.
I've actually heard.
And I'm sure the movie is fantastic. Cinematography, I'm sure, is going to be great.
I've seen the trailers. It looks amazing filmmaking.
And I will end up seeing this movie, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But just the fact that it's having this much, and that the Baptists are out going, you've got to go see this movie. Take the people from your church to this movie. And, I grew up in a place where it doesn't matter what the movie is. If you're going to a theater, you're going to burn in hell. That's all there is to it. So the fact that now I'm hearing this, I just find that highly ironic.
I know.
But anyway, I just wanted to mention that they're out there actively recruiting people to this, and it's having a pronounced effect on quite a few Baptists out there anyway.
Yeah. What the Christians have been waiting for a long time is for a Jesus movie to have major celebrity endorsement.
Right.
I mean, most Christian movies recently have been just really embarrassing, low-budget, cheapo affairs, like Omega Code and Left Behind and stuff like that.
Yeah, and Left Behind too, let's not forget.
Yeah, I mean, just this really cheap direct-to-video stuff.
Right.
And they've been looking for some sort of big, high-profile Jesus movie that has one of the top stars in Hollywood.
Kirk Cameron said it. It must be true. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and hang up and let you guys go.
Okay.
You guys take care. I appreciate you guys as always.
Yeah, well, we appreciate your input. Thanks.
Colin.
That's, and we'd like to say, right, because that's what I've been seeing in a lot of these articles, is that churches are buying up massive lots. They're renting out entire theaters, and then they're just out handing tickets out to just anyone to get you to go, because they think this movie will convert you. So we'd like to say right here and now on the show, if there's any Christian church in Austin who is planning on buying out entire theaters, I'm eager to see the movie, and I'm perfectly happy to see it on your dime. Okay, so get in touch with the Atheist Community of Austin by all means, and let us. There are probably some atheists.
If this movie ends up converting us,
we'll
salesmanship.
We'll pay you for the ticket you bought.
Exactly.
How's that? We'll give you your $8 back for the. But yeah, if any Christian church in Austin who wants a bunch of atheists to go see this movie, just get in touch with us, and we'll take your free ticket. Why not? It's just interesting how they've all latched onto this. I've heard the movie is just amazingly bloody.
Yes.
That's just, I mean, just the gore, the
gore factor.
In fact, the one criticism of it that I've heard from somebody who wasn't just harping on the anti-Semitism thing. Was somebody who said, this is just 2 hours of a guy being tortured to death.
Exactly.
Yeah, and it's just...
good, wholesome family entertainment.
But yeah, and what I find really kind of horrifying is, and this is something I can't relate to, so maybe someone can explain it to me. Okay, there are people watching this. Like devout Christians are watching this. This guy being turned into a hamburger, right, by scourging and and blood splattering everywhere. And their reaction is, "Wow, he did that for me." And I just listen to, and I can't. I'm just horrified by that response that people have. That people think that that's inappropriate. I'm like, well, first off, I wouldn't want any, that sort of violence to happen to anyone for any reason. If I found out that that was happening for me, I'd be like, stop!
Yeah.
This is crazy. Don't do.
Yeah.
The very notion of human sacrifice and this sort of thing is just repugnant. But it's just
the fact that
amazing
somebody
to me
2,000 years ago could actually do something that would pay back or make right what I have done 2,000 years later.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just the whole thing of responsibility is just stupid.
Well,
sorry.
Well, just this whole notion, right, that this all-powerful God decided that the only way that he's mad at the human race, so the only way that he can absolve the human race for more or less mistakes that he made, being this all-powerful God, is to send this one guy down who's basically himself in the flesh, right? Have this guy be horribly tortured and killed, and that'll make everything okay again. Yeah. Seems to me an omnipotent God isn't limited to this one option. Yeah. So why then there had to be this horrible scourging and sacrifice? Yeah. Because of course Jesus came back to life a couple days later, and none the worse for his experience, and then got to go to heaven and
now second-hand ruler of the universe.
Yeah, so it doesn't seem like much of a sacrifice to me. But just this whole idea that anyone with a shred of morals in their fiber, right, could look at a film where someone is just being horribly tortured to death and smile and say, "Gee, wow, they did that for me. Isn't that awesome?" No, it's not. It's not. Someone being tortured and nailed to a cross thing is not awesome. It's not a thing that I should appreciate ever. Yeah. Can't do it. But maybe some Christian will explain that to me. Oh, and just last thing, for the lightning strike, when Jim Caviezel got hit by lightning on the set, it's like, if you're on a hill and you're hanging up on this big pole of wood, right? And you're hanging on it with metal all around you, and it's stormy. It's not unreasonable odds that you might get hit by lightning.
Twice, apparently.
But he survived, so it's a miracle. Yeah. All right, who's next? So it's been handing on. Line 1, Ty is on line 1, has been holding for a while. Hey, thanks for holding. How you doing?
Hey, pretty good. How y'all?
We're all right. What's up?
Well, first off, to the last caller, I wanted to say that I was raised Baptist as well, so I feel his pain. Mm-hmm. But I was watching an old tape of the show when Jeff D was host, and he mentioned that at Randall's, they would match your purchase, 1% of your purchase will be donated to the ACA if you requested.
Yeah, now that's a thing that because of rules on AC cable access.
I believe the number was 5158 if you mentioned it to them. Yeah. And if you could just, I don't know.
Yeah, we're not allowed. Again, we're not allowed to mention that because
we can't do that kind of thing on this show. We can't advertise ourselves or deal with money in
anything that has to do with a financial contribution.
Okay, well,
I was just, that's out of the bag now.
I was just thinking it was 5158. You could say to them. I'm not sure. Yeah. But hopefully that's true, and everybody will hear and tell your Randall cat here.
We didn't say it.
Like your 1% donated to ACA.
But it's still going on. So that's.
Well, that's all I needed to know.
All right. Yes.
And glad to get it. 5158, I believe it is.
Okay. I'm not sure, but you may have to double check with that. But yeah.
I think it's on the website. I heard it was on the website. So
okay. All right.
People can check in with the website and.
Okay. That website would be atheist-community.org.
Okay, great.
Okay. Thanks, all right, man. Thanks a bunch. All right. Thoughtful guy. That was great. Who's next? Celia is saying, "Hi, you're on the air. Thanks for calling."
Hey guys,
how you doing?
We having some kind of like Baptist tent revival because I was raised Baptist too. So
we should have a support group.
We're attracting them all.
Yes.
Anyway, I just wanted to call about the religious climate and healthcare, and you guys are talking about the emergency contraception or morning after pill. Just wanted to really clarify something that I work in healthcare, and we dispense the so-called morning after pill, but it's really emergency contraception. But it's basically the same thing as the birth control pill. It's no different. Yeah. It's just given like within 72 hours of unprotected sex. So really, all it is the same exact thing as birth control pill.
Isn't it? It's like a higher dose.
Yeah, a little bit higher dose. And since they're dispensing it now, it used to be really unpleasant experience, as Ashley said, when it had estrogen, because it would really make people make women nauseated. But now, I mean, there's almost no side effects at all. So it's pretty easy. In the grand scheme of things, all the birth control methods out there, it's actually pretty easy. But they're trying to get it over the counter now, and there's the EPA basically said that they agree. You know, they think that it should be, and pretty much all the medical community out there said, yeah, we support this, but and usually whatever the EPA, whatever they decide,
EPA or FDA?
the government. Oh yes, yeah, one of those.
Yeah, it's one of those alphabet soup. Yeah.
Yeah. I have a cold, so I'm a little bit out of it today. But
okay.
So so they basically will. The government is supposed to really follow their not their instructions, but their recommendations, and they hardly ever go against it. But the government now is saying, oh no, you know, emergency contraception. No, that's something that doesn't need to be. It's too complicated. So it's kind of like women aren't smart enough to be able to
Yes,
I mean,
they have to save you from yourself.
Yes, exactly. And so, I mean, back in the day, even I think it was 1965 when the birth control pill wasn't even allowed for married women until 1965. So it's just the same thing about controlling behavior. And for unmarried women, it was 1971. So, you know, you're exactly right when you said that. I mean, by that logic, no birth control should be allowed ever, like condoms or anything, because, you just might, if you have them in your hands, you just have to go out and use them right now. Which, I mean, it's a good thing, you know. I mean,
gotta find an orgy quick.
It's part of life. But, but I mean, other things are happening, like the Seton Brackenridge Hospital. You know, they're not allowing reproductive or they're trying. You know, that now they have the pagan ward. That's what they were calling it. It was kind of a joke, you know, the pagan ward, which they'll be. You know, providing reproductive services, and that's not, you know, it's not really what they're calling it, but, you know, it's kind of a joke out there. And there's a lot of different groups like Physicians for Life that are trying to discourage or dissuade medical students from learning how to provide abortions, basically. And so they might, in a couple of years, it might get to the point, it's already getting to the point where, you know, you have this right, but you have no access to this right, so it's really not a right then. Yeah, and it's all about the, you know, controlling the behavior of people, of women in particular.
Yes.
And I mean, if you just think about it from another standpoint, like let's say there's a doctor who's a Jehovah's Witness, and I believe, I'm not sure, maybe you guys know this, they don't. Jehovah's Witnesses don't believe in blood transfusion.
That's correct. Yes.
So what if this person came to the hospital? Oh, I'm not giving that person a blood transfusion because that's against my religion. Well, you know what, buddy? You have no business in health care.
Exactly.
If you, you know, get into another line of work. Go be a preacher or whatever. You know, don't be in health care if you're not going to provide a certain standard of care. And especially for rape victims. I mean, I think emergency contraception to be available for everybody, but especially for rape victims. You know, I mean.
Yeah, that's just appalling.
Yeah,
I mean, that's like
a woman would be going through enough emotionally at that time. No, none of that BS. You know, come on, just make it easy for me. I've got enough to deal with. You know, and they just have no business in healthcare, especially in an ER situation.
Yeah, well, was that pharmacist planning on helping her support her kid?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. I mean, it's just.
Or dealing with the emotional aspects of being raped and all that. Yeah, I mean, Walmart tried to pull this a couple of years ago when emergency contraception, they didn't want to provide it, but they got so much flack for it from people who were, you know, rational and reasonable that, you know, there's a boycott. And so it's a real bad climate right now for reproductive rights in general. And it's getting pretty scary, and Planned Parenthood's getting a lot of flack in Austin, actually. You guys may or may not have heard about it.
I've heard of that.
But so it's...
One question, though, I did have. You were saying that the morning after pill is essentially just birth control more so.
Progestin.
Essentially.
The hormone.
But if birth control requires a prescription now, why would it be so much different for this to not require a prescription?
That's a really important issue. Since emergency
this may be getting way too, you know, medical for, you know, this show.
Well, no, I
mean, basically, it's really time sensitive, and someone who has a birth control prescription is probably going to have that at home already. But emergency contraception, it is so time sensitive. It has to be within 72 hours, and the sooner the better. So if you're, you know, let's say you're out Saturday night, and you know, you and your boyfriend or whoever you have sex with, you know, you need that prescription right away. And so having it over the counter, or having it not necessarily even over the counter, they could just have it behind the counter, the pharmacist, and they could have a standing prescription, which they do for a lot of things actually. You know, other types of medication, and it's, I mean, compared to other kind of medications, there's very few side effects. So, I mean, it's just something that, especially since it's so time sensitive, it's really important to have easy access to it.
I know. And there's conservative politicians saying, but that goes against our abstinence programs. And so we can't. Just nuts.
Those work so well, yeah.
Yeah, I know. If it worked better, maybe we wouldn't need this.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just something really funny on CNN. There's yet another, high school youth group or something out there, and they're promoting the purity thing, right?
Yeah.
And I love how they use the word purity because it's so pompous, right?
Exactly.
It's this funny way of
We're higher than
legitimizing.
you are.
It's this funny way of legitimizing the fact that you can't get laid. By saying, well, yeah, I'm pure. So suddenly that makes it a good thing, right?
Or like implying that other people are dirty and that you think sex is bad or evil.
But what they have is they
Point.
have these T-shirts, right? That have their little day of purity.
Yeah,
So
for Valentine's Day.
and they've got and they've got a slogan, which is the symbol for men, and
Okay.
what is the circle, and the symbol for women.
Yeah.
And they're like linked, right? Like the circle parts are like this.
Okay.
Okay.
Like Austin Powers Mojo symbol. Is that what you're talking about, or?
I guess. Well, it's like there's a.
The circle with the cross, the circle with the X.
Yeah.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, and the circle parts are like overlapping.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that doesn't make sense.
I know.
If this
There
is
should
like
be
something.
a wall of separation.
Yeah, there should be like on opposite sleeves, I mean, it's,
Or Halo's linked up or something. Who knows?
yeah, but right. Well, it's certainly, you're right. It's a watch your back climate.
Yeah,
And,
especially in
Walmart.
healthcare. I mean, it's just tough for a lot of people to get access to it, and it just keeps. I just shudder to think that if it just keeps going the way it is, any religious person can have their, opinion on how something is provided, and we all might not be able to get health care. Well, it's not that
Well,
much of a
hope we're not
going.
hope we're not slipping down that slope.
Not that bad yet, but
yeah, it's again, fortunately, we live in a country where we can fight these things.
Yeah.
So, thank you for
Thank you,
calling,
guys.
and we'll talk to you soon. Okay?
Thanks. Bye bye.
Walmart is just an interesting phenomenon,
Yeah.
right? I mean, here's a retailer who will sell guns all over the place, right?
yeah.
But they won't sell Maxim magazine.
Yeah, I know.
Or something. It's, figure that out. So
Yeah.
we don't want to undermine moral fiber. Here are your hollow points. So, anyway, all right. James has been holding on line 2 for a while. So, hi, how you doing?
Hi, pretty good.
Right.
Hey, I happen to have been raised Southern Baptist, and I'm gay as well, so I really feel the pain.
Okay.
But the reason I was calling was what you were saying about gay marriage.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not very popular with a couple of my friends right now because I feel the exact same way. In reference to with this becoming such a political issue, and it looks like it's probably going to remain a political issue when there's so many other important things that need to be discussed.
Yeah.
So it was good to hear you say about that, and you made some connections with the civil rights movement. And in a lot of ways, it's like the civil rights movement, but a lot of ways, it isn't.
Mm-hmm.
But
Okay. Like, what in your estimation are the distinctions that people should know about?
well, I've heard that people have used, just like when we wouldn't let blacks drink at the water fountains with whites, and the various different things that were going on at that time. And I do think that we're being treated like second-class citizens, but no one's forcing us to drink out of different water fountains right now.
Yeah.
I personally think that in Massachusetts we should have took the civil unions and ran at least for a few years so that good Christians can see that God is not going to spank the United States like he did Sodom and Gomorrah.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing about it, though, is that the gays and lesbians pretty much are the figurehead. I mean, we are the boogeyman to the Christian right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there are people in the Christian right think that the world's going to end
Yeah.
if gay people are allowed marriage and they are allowed to adopt and what have you.
Yeah.
And yeah, I've never quite gotten that myself, but
Yeah. So I just think that we shouldn't push that strongly. Civil unions, I think, is a great idea for now, and then we can work on the things as we go.
yeah, I mean, a social change that's this massive, it takes time.
Yeah.
And it takes a lot of understanding does not come quickly, and it's certainly not to people who don't want to have understandings about things.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I hope that that what's going on in San Francisco right now does not turn into as big a backlash and a setback for the supporters of gay rights as I'm afraid it will, but I'm afraid it will.
I'm afraid of the same thing, so.
So, you know, I just want to have, like, you know, equality and happiness for all Americans, and it's just a shame that some people feel threatened by that. But we appreciate your input very much.
Yes.
Anything else you want to?
That'll be it.
All right.
Okay.
Well, thanks for watching, okay?
Thanks, Colin.
Take care.
All right.
Jeremy is on line 1. Hi, thanks for holding. What's up?
Hey, I have a question for Ashley.
Okay.
It's not specifically for Ashley. It's just a topic I've heard brought up on several other shows, and it was kind of involving archaeology in the sense that it was about the Lost Ark and shit like that.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with any of the past episodes?
I assume you mean the Noah's Ark.
Well, there was where the guy a preacher called in and was talking about how there was a piece of Noah's Ark, and they all justified it by.
Yeah, we've
Turns
heard
out that tree was actually from like 20 years ago or whatever. Yeah.
Well, Noah's Ark.
Forgeries also.
Okay. No, yeah, Noah's Ark has been quote unquote found something like 17 or 18 times.
Yeah, I think one of the more recent ones was actually some piece of lumber that somebody soaked in like soy sauce for a couple days.
Teriyaki sauce.
And that was
the thing is, even if you found, like, let's say you're an archaeologist, right, and you're wandering around some mountain, and you find the remains of some ship. Okay, how do you know it's Noah's Ark? Even if it's a really big ship, how do you know you found Noah's Ark?
Yeah.
Are you going to find registration papers in the glove box saying this ship belongs to Noah? Sort of.
But what was the question, I guess?
So anyway, yeah.
Sorry.
Well, the question essentially was, "Fuck yeah!"
Nah, I thought so.
Okay, whatever.
That's control room. Why are we not on camera 1?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm done.
That's the best you can do, dude. I mean, so. All right. Pedro, line 3 is no longer online, so we're done. Okay. Anyway, so we're getting new names. We want to just again remind everyone that if you're watching this show on Tuesday, this is a taped episode. This will be a rerun. Reruns of this show play every Tuesday afternoon at 4:30. And, of course, the live show is on Sundays at 4:30. And if you try to call in and you don't manage to get in, you can send us an email at tv@atheist-community.org. tv@atheist-community.org is your viewer feedback address, and we will answer all the emails that we get. And the best ones, we bring them on the air, and we read them on the air. So there you go. We don't have, we lost those 2 callers, so
number for right now, if you want to call in, 477-2288.
Here's something, you want to talk about watching your back? Here's something that's really terrifying. Yeah. This is a new piece of legislation that, again, a couple of Christian conservative politicians have advanced. I think they're calling this the Constitution Restoration Act or something.
Yeah.
But this is what's amazing. In response to the whole Judge Roy Moore flap, and I guess the Michael Newdow case and what have you. Listen to this. They want to pass this bill. It goes like this. They essentially want to make attempts to establish a theocracy in this country, and they want to make those impossible to fight legally.
Yeah.
Here it is. It says, Section 1260 of this is H.R. 3799. Says, notwithstanding any other provision of this chapter, the Supreme Court shall not have jurisdiction to review, by appeal, writ of certiorari, or otherwise, any matter to the extent that relief is sought against an element of federal, state, or local government, or against an officer of federal, state, or local government, whether or not acting in an official personal capacity, by reason of that element's or officer's acknowledgement of God as the sovereign source of law, liberty, or government.
Yeah. So any questions involving God and any legal cases involving God cannot go before the Supreme Court.
Yeah. So if some government official decides to use his office and his power of office to start shoving his religion down people's throats, you cannot appeal.
Yeah.
You cannot appeal this there's no law, there's no appeal under the law that you can make, even to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court cannot be appealed to. This is it right here, people. This is the recipe, this is theocracy right here.
The only thing that could happen here is, again, these kind of things come out of the woodwork when the people in power are supportive to their ideas. Now, let's run with the idea that this, through some, alignment of the stars, actually gets through.
No, it would be a miracle from God.
And then 10 years from now, there is a very, very liberal slant to the government and who's in power. And they say, okay, all 10 Commandment monuments got to come down. All kind of religion schools coming out. No more intelligent design. None of this stuff. They can't do anything about it. They just got to swallow it. Because they can't then bring to court saying, we need to have intelligent design in our schools. We need to have these 10 Commandment monuments and stuff like that. All of it's got to go, and they can't do anything about it.
Okay. So. You're saying that would be the case under this bill?
Yeah.
Well, no, this bill says acknowledgement of God. So it's only that you cannot complain about.
Okay.
If somebody were elected to office and said there is no God, then apparently you could complain about that. This only applies to an element of officers' acknowledgement of God as a sovereign source of law, liberty, or government. That's the thing you can't appeal to the Supreme Court about.
Okay.
If some Wiccan were elected governor of Idaho and came out and said the Mother Earth goddess loves you and whatever, or whatever Wiccans say. Apparently this 3799 wouldn't appeal to that because they're not talking about God.
Okay.
Okay. And so I don't think that applies. And here's what's amazing. Also, under this provision, justices, including Supreme Court justices, can get sacked if they hear these cases. If someone says, "I don't like the fact that my mayor is trying to pass a law saying you got to pray to God every Sunday."
Yeah.
Okay. Well, any judge who even hears the case can be impeached and convicted and removed.
Yeah.
This is it, people. This is the blueprint for Taliban in America, right here in front of us. Yeah. Amazing, amazing. Now, this hasn't got a snowball's chance in hell of getting through, but still, the fact that anyone would even have,
the chutzpah.
Yeah, to do this.
Try and put this through with a straight face.
Yeah. So the push is there again.
Yeah.
But again, we're still. That's why this is an election year and very, very important. Okay. Is that? Is that JC?
Okay.
Jace? Okay, on one is holding. Hi, thanks for holding.
Hello.
Hi, how you doing?
How y'all doing tonight?
We're all right, what's up?
First I want to start off with a question for y'all.
Okay.
Are y'all dating by any chance?
Sorry, we're both taken. Try later. Yeah. See?
This is the Atheist Experience, not the dating line.
Yeah. But we could be.
We could.
Yes. But, and if we were, we'd have to go and get married now because they're all doing it. Okay. And who's that? I'm on 2. Okay. Hi, you're on the air?
Hello?
Hi. Thanks for holding. Is this Bob?
This is Jim.
Jim. Okay. Oh, okay. Well, that's fine. We'll talk to you first. Okay. Jim, how's it going?
Pretty good.
All right, what's up?
I used to be an atheist years ago. Mm-hmm. And I studied Freemasonry.
Mm-hmm. And did you call us a few shows back?
No, I haven't.
Okay, because we had another Freemason call us a few shows back.
Yeah, and they teach that the deity is light, natural light.
Natural light? Okay.
Yeah.
Because everything's created from light. All matter is created out of light.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
And
all right. So, okay, and why? And so why should light be a deity?
That's just what they teach.
Okay, I'm just puzzled as to the reasoning behind it. That's all.
Well, just because everything's created out of light.
Okay.
Matter is just light frozen.
Oh, it is. Okay.
But yeah, I mean, deciding to worship this, different forms of matter.
Yeah.
Or energy, what's the point?
I mean, yeah. Is that what Freemasonry promotes? Is the worship of light, or do you just acknowledge that it's a deity?
There is the deity, yeah.
Okay. Right.
The way you see the deity is through light.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks.
Okay.
All right. There.
Bye-bye.
Bye. All right.
Okay.
And, all right, see, I was looking at the wrong number. Yeah, there we go. Okay, this would be Bob on line. Hi, how you doing?
Hey, how's it going, dudes?
We're okay, what's up?
How many species are on this earth?
Of what, just anything?
Everything that exists.
Millions and millions, probably. Why?
5 billion.
Okay.
How out of those 5 billion species, how many of them can make TVs and broadcast over, like we're doing right now?
Oh, that I know of. One.
Just one.
Okay.
Okay. Who is their closest, next in line in regards to the intelligence level?
I'm not sure I can answer that. I mean, you'd have to ask probably a biologist or a zoologist.
Not a single one.
Some might say.
So you're saying
well, you're saying next in line. You're not saying who is as intelligent
who's next
as we
in
are.
line in being able to make a TV and
Yeah. Okay. So.
So what's the point?
Yeah.
Well, out of 5 billion, I mean.
Actually, I've heard it's probably I think it's like twice that. Actually, maybe about 10 billion.
When you start counting beetles and ants.
Yeah. I mean, there's probably something like 1 billion species of insects.
Well, 5 billion.
Yeah.
5 billion.
Okay. So, and your point is?
Well, just 5 billion to 1. I mean, what?
So we're intelligent.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Who's closest to us?
I think we've kind of been around that question before. I'm trying to get to your conclusion.
Yeah,
what's the point?
Hey, well, that.
Yeah.
That's all you can.
I mean, yeah, intelligence is our niche, right? In the whole ecosystem. I mean, that's.
if you want to start looking at things like that, there are other animals that can out trump us.
Okay, those animals can more or less build a home or something like that.
Well, no, but if you want to talk about pure biology, let's look at a squid.
Ants?
Their eyes are incredibly better than ours.
Yeah.
If you want to look
eyes?
if you want to look at, let's say, a lion can pretty much beat the snot out of me any day of the week.
Yeah.
If you're talking about physical things, I ain't got nothing on them.
Yeah.
No, mentally. I'm not talking about physical. I'm talking
Yeah.
Okay, so
yeah.
okay, so then you've chosen to take our niche in niche in the world.
Mental capabilities.
Yeah.
So then you're taking the one thing that we're good
regards
at.
to building, being able to build.
But again, I'm not. We don't know what point you're deriving at.
Yeah. What is the
Hey,
point?
one more thing.
Wait, no. What is the
haven't made a
point?
point yet.
Yeah. What is? Okay. We've established that human intelligence is unique to humans. So therefore, so the conclusion is. I mean, we assume that you're leading up to something.
499 billion other species can't do what
Okay.
Again,
So,
big
all right.
numbers. Who
All right,
cares?
yeah. You're impressed by big numbers.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Okay. Good for you.
Hey, I got another question for you. Are y'all gay?
We're not, but if you want help meeting someone, I would suggest the Austin Chronicle person.
In regards to the gay and lesbian marriages, I'm gonna marry my gorilla.
All right, do that.
Good for you.
Good that because he's probably just as intelligent as you are. Take care. Yeah, you should always marry your intellectual equals. All right. Anybody else in the last 2.5 minutes of the show? We're done. Okay. We're probably close to being done. If we can,
we've got a couple names coming in.
Well, maybe we'll try to take one more in the last minute, and if not, okay. Hi. Quick call. Richard.
Yes, I want to talk a little bit about the theory of evolution and about the insects.
Okay. Well, we actually don't necessarily have enough time to go into that in detail, but did you have a quick question? Yeah. Yes.
Apparently didn't have anything good.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, folks, that's the Atheist Experience. That's the kind of person that rationalists in America are trying to protect this country from, okay? Yeah. I mean, those are the people who are out there trying to, pass crazy laws and stuff.
Yeah,
So, yeah, but there's still a chance for America, for smart people to save this country, okay? And it's called voting. All right, it's called getting active and participating. All right, we appreciate you watching the show today. We're done. Like I said, we are here every week. 4:30. I'll actually be off next weekend, but Ashley will be here, and Don Baker will be the guest. And reruns show at 4:30 on Tuesdays.
Yes.
And again, last but not least, I want to reiterate, tv@atheist-community.org. That is our viewer feedback email address. And we respond to all the emails that we get from folks. And so write us a letter, and if it's a good one, we'll read it out on the air.
Any atheists or atheist-friendly people out there want to come out and meet us, or anybody else in the group? Again, we have the weekly meetings. Right now it's kind of in flux, but next week at
what the hell is
Posse East.
Posse East.
On Duval and San Jacinto.
Okay, all right.
That's where we'll be next week about 10 in the morning.
Yeah, but it's fluctuating, and so until we find our regular place, which, who knows. But I'm sure it's going to be a place where we can eat.
Yes.
Because that's like tends to be something that people are really into.
Yeah.
And our lecture for
11:30? Wow, okay.
Oh,
11:30.
Okay, I guess they must not open until then. That must be it. And then our lecturer for March will be Alan Campbell, speaking on some subject. And so, just remember, all atheists, freethinkers, rationalists, secular humanists, we are living in trying times right now, so just watch your backs, okay, folks? But America is still America, and so we're going to stick up for it and defend it. Okay, everybody, thanks again. We'll talk to you later on. Thanks a whole bunch for our crew, to the crew and to the group as a whole. And until next weekend, remember, theists, we don't hate you. We just think you're wrong. Bye-bye. Take it easy. See you next time.
Happy post-Valentine's Day.
Did that already happen?
That was yesterday.
Ah, well.